noong 1962, itinatag ang ESO, Standard Fertilizer and Agrichemical Company Incorporated, na naglalayon na maging isa sa mga nangungunang kumpanya ng mga kemikang pang-agrikultura sa Pilipinas. Ang pagmamay-ari nito ay nailipat sa Sugar Producers Cooperative and Marketing Association noong taong 1970 at pinangalan ng Planters Products Incorporated. Alinsunod sa Letter of Instruction bilang 178 na nilagdaan ni dating Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos. Noong Marso 1974, inilagak ang mga shares of stocks ng PPI sa pangangalaga ng Non-Profit Planters Foundation Incorporated. Ang PFI ay naatasan na ibahagi ang nasabing shares sa mga magsasakang Pilipino. Base sa pagtataya, 25 milyong shares of stocks na naibahagi na sa may higit kumulang 830,000 magsasaka shareholders. Mula noong 1973 hanggang unang bahagi ng dekada 70, ang Planters Products Incorporated ay naging mahalagang katuwang ng ating pamahalaan sa pagpapatupad ng Masagana 99, isang programang may layuning mapataas ang ani ng mga magsasaka mula 30 hanggang 79 na sako bawat ektarya ng palayan. Ito ay isinakatuparan sa pamamagitan ng akses sa teknolohiya sa mga Pilipinong magsasaka, pagpapahiram, probisyon ng abono sa abot-kayang halaga. Ang PPI na nooy may hawak ng 80 hanggang 85% ng lokal na kalakalan ng abono, ang naging katangi-tanging Pilipinong kumpanya na nagbenta ng abono sa mga magsasaka na may diskwento na 40% para sa 600,000 ektarya sa buong kapuluan na naging bahagi ng Masagana 99. Kaugnay dito, ang PPI din ang nagpasimula sa paggamit ng makabagong uri ng abono. Sa kasalukuyan, ang Planters Products Incorporated ay patuloy na walang sawang pagseserbisyo sa ating mga kabalikat na magsasaka. Ito ay sa pamamagitan ng paghahatid ng kompleto, dekalidad at abot-kayang mga produkto para sa kanilang mga sakahan. Kalakip ang pagbabahagi ng makabago at naaangkop na teknolohiya at suportang teknikal upang kanilang matugunan hindi lamang ang kanilang pangangailangan, bagkus pati ang buong bayan. Ang PPI ay isa sa mga naunang Filipino Agrichem Company na naging ISO certified. Patunay na world-class ang batayan ng kalidad at galing. Ang kabuang layunin ng PPI ngayon ay palakasin ang kakayahan at kapasidad ng bayaning magsasaka na mapaunlad ang kanilang katayuan hindi lamang sa pagsasaka kundi pati sa kanilang kabuhayan. Ang PPI ay may layuning matustusan hindi lamang ang kasalukuyang pangangailangan ng mga magsasaka at ng ating bansa, kundi paghandaan at payabungin ang kinabukasan. Ito ay sa pamamagitan ng pagpapakilala ng mga makabago at epektibong produktong hindi makasasama at mapapangalagaan ang kalikasan. Lahat ng adhikaing ito ay maisa sa katuparan sa pamamagitan ng patuloy na pagtutulungan ng PPI at ng ating mga bayaning magsasaka.
I commend Seedworks Philippines, headed by its President Carlos Saplala and his formidable team for actively advocating modernized technology and smarter ways for cultivating and harvesting high-quality rice. I also congratulate all of you for the successful conduct of Ang Hari sa Ani.
We would also like to thank all the participants of this event. Many farmer finalists achieved yields of more than 10 tons per hectare. Congratulations to the winners from Nueva Ecija and Davao del Norte. Our Anghari sa Ani winners were able to harvest more than 3 times the national average. In behalf of the entire Seedworks team, please accept our warmest congratulations.
Mabuhay ang Seedworks Philippines. Mabuhay ang lahat ng magsasakang Pilipino.
Honorable William Dar, Department of Agriculture Secretary, distinguished speakers, they will be introduced properly in a while. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to the Manila Times Business Forum, Food Security through Agribusiness and Digitalization. Today's theme was inspired by the reality that societies here and elsewhere are trying to find ways to navigate through the new normal. And one of the key issues of the day is food security. Like most aspects of the economy, agriculture was disrupted by the coronavirus pandemic. We still recall how the lockdown that was meant to contain the spread of COVID-19 also had a choking effect on the agricultural supply chains. Still fresh in our mind are reports of farmers having to destroy newly harvested crops that were stuck in rural areas because they could not be delivered to markets in urban centers. Today's discussions will hopefully enrich the national discourse on food security. We look forward to hearing from Secretary Dar, whom we have missed as a columnist for the Manila Times. We look forward to having him write again, perhaps when his demanding schedule permits. The second part of this business forum is digitalization. It is an appropriate subject matter in discussing supply chains in agriculture. As we have reported in our newspaper, the pandemic is accelerating the digitalization of our national economy. Obviously, much needs to be done to prepare the Philippines for the digital economy that is now unfolding. We look forward to the insights of our speakers, and we hope that what they will share will be a substantial benefit to policymakers and other leaders in government who will be reading our reports from this event. So let me yield the screen now to our speakers, but before I do, I would like to thank all those who made this business forum possible. Thank you to our co-presenters, San Miguel Corporation, our sponsors, Planters Product and Seedworks, our special partner, NutriAsia, our organizational partners, the Financial Executives Association of the Philippines, or FINEX, and the Management Association of the Philippines, or MAP. And of course, thank you also to our media partner, TMT TV. Thank you also to all those watching this forum on our website and Facebook page. Tomorrow, we will publish reports both in our print edition and on our digital edition, which is an exact replica of our paper issue. The forum is also being recorded. It will be edited later and uploaded on the Manila Times channels on YouTube and Dailymotion. Once again, good morning, and I wish you all a productive morning.
Without much ado, may I turn the microphone now to Mr. Bobby Amores. Thank you.
Maraming salamat for that kind introduction. Anyway, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. To our very hard-working and good friend, the Agriculture Secretary William Dar, my fellow panelists, of course, the Manila Times officials who invited me, the online viewers, yung aking mga kasama sa agribusiness sector, my associates from PhilExport, PhilFoodX, the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the Agri-Fisheries Alliance, the Philippine Chamber of Agriculture and Food, and the other business organizations where I am affiliated with. Guests, ladies and gentlemen, magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. It is my favorite tagline every time there is an interaction or a business gathering or a discussion. Parati kong sinasambit yung tagline kong, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Sa lahat ng ating gawain, dapat meron tayong adhikain na bottom line o resulta. Anyway, I will now go to my main presentation. Thank you for this invitation to speak alongside the good Secretary, William Dar, and other distinguished speakers. COVID-19 pandemic has adversely affected the global economy. In fact, the Philippine economy is now in recession. Our gross domestic product, or GDP, shrunk by 16.5% in the second quarter this year, the biggest contraction ever. And the only sector that remained resilient in this time of crisis is the agriculture and fishery sector, which grew 1.6% in the second quarter despite the pandemic, thanks to the efforts that Secretary Dar and the rest of the agribusiness team has been doing, and we hope that it will continue to grow. The health crisis made us all realize the important contribution of agriculture in keeping our economy and people afloat. Essentially, because we need food to survive. However, the crisis has also shown us the inefficiency of our supply value chain to support the sector in facilitating the movement of goods. These should be addressed alongside redeveloping and innovating agriculture. Okay, look at this scorecard. Ito in 2018 pero hindi ito nagbago. Look at the scorecard about the agri-exports, please, no? Para lang makita ng ating mga viewers. Next slide. Yan, okay. Look at Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, and Malaysia in terms of their agri-exports versus their imports. They have shown significant positive trade balance compared to the Philippines na nagkaroon lang ng agri-export na $6 billion and huge importation of $13.3 billion and a negative $7.3 billion sa ating trade deficit. Next, please. Bakit kaya ganun? Please. Okay. Reasons therein are a gamut of unresolved issues on competitiveness, cost of logistics, production, food safety standards, market demand, nando doon. May problema tayo sa supply availability. Technology and product development, which is being developed now by the OST and the rest of the partner agencies, but malaki pa rin ang kakulangan dyan. Post-harvest facilities, which we have been discussing time and again to the Department of Secretary Dar, which I hope ma-action na. And lingering access to credit and financing, among others. And more recently, doon sa mga agri-exporters at sa mga kasamang exporter, the appreciating peso natin, which has been impacting seriously to our competitiveness as exporters, even the OFW. Malaki pong problema yan on competitiveness. Kaya magkakaroon ng slowdown tayo pag hindi natin nabigyan ng atensyon yan. Okay, next slide please. Ano ang current solution na in-integrate namin dito para magkaroon ng direksyon? We call this project ASPIRE, or the Agribusiness Support for Promotion and Investment of Regional Enterprises. Ito ay collaborative project between the PCCI and PCCI, essentially to link farmers directly to the market. We want to help farmers easily find markets for their produce and vice versa. Prior to COVID-19 pandemic, We have been in discussions for a project with the USA Deliver to undertake the profiling of producers, farmers, and market buyers so that we can easily tag the areas that produce certain commodities and match them with prospective buyers. Also, ayan po, it will also provide up-to-date market information sa ating mga stakeholders, both for the market and the suppliers. And it will be using aggregated access to services. Ano-ano to? Financing, transportation, and other information issues, left and right, market, and the supply. We also have on the works an e-commerce platform also under the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which we are developing right now for its members, which can be utilized for a B2B between farmers and consumers. We call Shop All. So meron dalawang e-line e-commerce which are digitalized ang aspect. Okay. Now, what do we aspire for? Lahat tayo, we all dream to transform our Philippine agriculture into a dynamic and competitive sector. We want our agriculture to be at par for the rest in ASEAN. What needs to be done is, of course, innovation in agriculture. This one being the core program of PCCI through our president, Dicky Benedicto. Because will be one of the drivers in navigating business, especially in time of pandemic. Let me say that the farmers and fisher folks need to adapt to the dynamically changing times. Kailangan po natin mag-innovate and modernize the use of technology to increase productivity and income of our farmers. We need to implement an efficient integrated supply network so that transport of goods will be unhampered. We need to implement easy access to finance for farmers so they can go back to farming and agribusiness entrepreneurs to restart, expand operations. Ito po another important matter. We need to harmonize our domestic and export regulations compliant to the needs of the global market. Kailangan nag-a-adapt tayo, nag-a-adjust tayo sa competitive market to increase our agri-exports. Coupled with a more proactive support from concerned bureaus, agencies, especially on market access issues. Ito po napakahalaga nito, a proactive approach. We need to convince the private sector if all those things that I have described will be addressed slowly or moderately, we can convince the private sector to really redirect and invest in agriculture.
Dr. William Dar, a man of science, servant leader of the agri-fishery sector and global Filipino from Ilocos whose heart is passion belongs to the countryside. Dr. Honorable Secretary William Dar.
Ang topic natin ay food security through agribusiness and digitalization. Next slide. Alam natin during the pandemic ito yung nangyari, no? And this is a result of the study made by the World Bank. They are releasing their document transforming Philippine agriculture during COVID-19 and beyond this August. And we will also be giving you copies of this. So talagang apektado ang sektor ng agrikultura in terms of, you know, all this from pre-production to supply of inputs on farm production, produce transport, processing, marketing, and trade. Gusto kong banggitin na during the early days of the lockdown for Luzon, 15% of the farmers and fishers were disrupted. Now, with that also another data that came out as borne out from a study of the anticipatory and Forward Planning Group ng ITF led by NEDA, sabi nila 35% of the farmers and fishers were not able to market their produce. So maraming problema. As I've said, most of it would be the movement of cargoes, both food supplies and medicines. During this socioeconomic recovery and resiliency stages, tatlo yan stages na yan, we are presently under survival. And let's see to it that we are able to really survive, and all the resources of government have been refocused to make it possible na talagang we are going to withstand this dreadful pandemic that we are now in. But at the same time, we have to start planning for the rebooting of the sector. And part of that, I will mention later on yung stimulus package na sinubmit natin. And I would like to believe na rebooting in a major way can start using the 2021 budget, but with some of this stimulus fund to start this last quarter, and which we are hopeful to get support from the Bayanihan too, then growing the sector as we recover. Okay? So may limang objectives na nakita natin na very, very, very important during abnormal and normal days. Now we are in new normal. Always we look at every opportunity to improve production, increase productivity. Kasi maraming attendant problems, global trade has been distorted, movement have been distorted. So every step of the way, dito sa Pilipinas, pagigihan na natin na maitaas ang productivity levels, including that of accessibility at saka kaya ba ng publiko bilhin, to stable ba yung presyo. Then this objective of sustainability is always necessary, and that of food safety. Industrialization, as I've said, where we will now encourage more rural industries, more investments from private sector, so that already we can really start the agri-industrialization of the sector. So agribusiness as an approach to develop the sector is key. And even export promotion is now put in as a major strategy. Working with PCCI, DTI, and many other stakeholders, we have to learn lessons from the other ASEAN member economies. We are now there, but we are not yet there. I mean, in many ways, tapping the potential of exports. Then we need all relevant big, medium, small infrastructure to support the sector in the rural areas. Then these are the enablers, budget. Thank you po, Bobby, for mentioning na tutulong kayo pagpataas ng budget. Hindi ko pa rin nakita yan sa proposal ng DBM. We are now top 8, 66 billion ang recommended ng DBM sa Kongreso for 2021. I thought one of the sectors that have to be heavily funded during this new normal would be the following sectors: health, food, agriculture, education, and digital agriculture. So hindi ko nakikita muna yan. And investments must be coming from the private sector. And the legislation that will help will bring in more investments like the one under discussion in the Senate and in the House, yung create. Then we will have to revisit roadmaps for the various commodity industries. Okay, so down here are the key RAs: systems, products, people, institutions, environment. I believe that we need to empower more the farmers and fisher folk. We need to enhance their capacities for collective action. We need to enhance their capacities to be guided following through a value chain system. So during this pandemic, we launched as a part of our survival mechanism itong plant program. And we are not just looking on crops, but livestock, poultry, and fisheries. And so we have seen how this idea of a plant movement is now in the psyche of every household, and hoping that we can sustain this plant program over time. And if there is one, say, program under this umbrella program, we have the urban agriculture to mention, so that we are encouraging every household in the country to at least produce their own food, because it's more fresh, more nutritious, and the like, complementing what is commercially produced by farmers and and fishers, of course. So this will be the umbrella program here on, not only during the survival stage, but during the rebooting stage. Plan program is the umbrella program under the new normal as well. And loanable amount, zero interest, payable in 5 years. Also to marginalize small farmers and fishers, 25,000 amount of loan, zero interest, no collateral, and payable up to 10 years. Ito rin, another program for agribusiness, micro agri-negosyo, up to 300,000, loanable amount, zero interest, depends on the cash flow of the project, but not to exceed 5 years. Then the level of a small agri-negosyo, from 300,000 to 15 million, loanable amount, zero interest rate, and payable in 5 years. Now, for the younger agripreneurs, we call it KAYA, Support Loan Program, capital access for young agripreneurs. An individual can borrow 500,000 with zero interest and payable in 5 years. MAYA is mentoring and attracting youth in agribusiness. We are almost to start this. We are funding this from the Bayanihan Part 2. We will bring in almost 1,000 young graduates. We will have them as on-the-job trainees or internship, 6 months. Every month they will be getting 20,000 pesos as allowance. Now, 2 tracks. One track would be for them, if interested to join the government, the agriculture sector, we will hire them. If not, if they want to do their own agribusiness, we will give them loan support. So ganun po ang preparation for these young peoples. Business incubation, ganun din, yung lahat ng young generation, including the old, having ideas in their minds. If they wanted to translate their ideas into proof of concept, why not? So we'll have this to support startup. Okay. And even after them having the proof of concept, if they want to commercialize, then the loan program can work for them. One of the newer ideas that we are institutionalizing, and we will start with an agro-industrial business corridor in the new Clark City. And so this is part of the whole strategy of government to disperse agri-based industries to the regions, to entice the private sector to invest, and allow the integration of the smallholder farmers with the whole concept of a business corridor. So there is a hub and spokes model. So Clark City will be the hub, and the spokes will be the various production areas and or say trading centers in that case. So this is starting this year, and another agribusiness corridor would be part of Taguig, where it is tied up with the Laguna Lake, because we wanted that area to also easily connect with Metro Manila, accessing it because of the fish the production that's happening in Laguna de Bay. This is my last slide. Magpakatatag tayo, yun po ang title. Kahit anong mangyari, babangon ng Pilipinas, huwag tayo susuko sa pandemya, lalaban tayo, labanan natin ito. Sa sektor ng agrikultura, ipaglaban natin ang pagtatanim at pangingisda para maging masagana ang ating ani at tataas na rin ang kanilang kita. May pag-asa pa na babangon ang ating bansa, may pag-asa na babangon ang ating ekonomiya, may pag-asa na babangon muli ang agrikultura at maiangat ang buhay ng ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda. Together, we are win. Heal and rise as one. Marami pong salamat.
His presentation will also be about, I think, fourth industrial technologies. So, Mr. Dennis Taktak, the floor is yours now.
Represent ko po kung ano po yung ginagawa ng ating society dito sa ating country. So basically, Philippine Society of Agriculture and Biosystems Engineers Incorporated is a non-profit and non-stock organization duly registered at the Security Exchange Commission. So ito po rin pa ay accredited po ng Professional Regulation Commission at accredited siya ng Integrated Professional Organization. So right now, we have active members, 10,000 more or less, practicing the agriculture and biosystems profession. Last May, dun sa Farmers Folk Day, nag-award po, nakuha po namin yung accreditation from Department of Agriculture, na-award po ni Secretary Dar, yung aming certificate to be NGO ng Department of Agriculture. So maganda po ito para sa atin dahil we can now access yung programa, pati ho siguro yung resources ng Department of Agriculture na matulungan sila na may pabot po yung mga technology and programs ng departamento sa ating mga magsasaka at mangingisda. Next. So aside po doon sa mga partnership po, may programa po ang PSABE, yung tawag po na Government Internship Program for Agriculture and Biosystems Engineering Youth. So sa picture po, yun po sa bandang likod na linya, nandun po yung youth. At dito po sa harap naman ay nandyan po yung mga partners natin sa from PRC, Department of Agriculture, sa BAFE, si Engineer Rico, and yung mga partners po natin from the DOLE. So, ang target beneficiaries po nito ay yung newly graduate Agriculture and Biosystems Engineers. So, purpose po nito ay to augment the ABE and the Department of Agriculture, local government units, and other agencies na nag-implement po ng mga farm mechanization. Okay. So dito po sa aming mga publications, may mga kuha po kami na journals. Dito po nakita ko dito yung mga technologies po na ini-impart po from the research institutions po na nandun po yung ating mga agriculture and biosystems engineers. Sa po dito yung minomodernize po yung mga ibang research po sa farming, like yung paggagamit po ng mga laser guided leveler para ho magawa ho natin maigi, papatag po natin at yung tinatawag ko natin na precise farming. Kasi pagka hindi ho maganda ang patag ng lupa, masyado po marami po tayong mga nasasayang na resources. Other publications po, yung journal po na napublish natin, andyan ho yung mga success stories po ng ilang mga agriculture and biosystems engineers doon so sa lalo na ho dito sa farm service provider. So ang gamit po ang mga nutrients po dito mula ho sa land preparation ay gumagamit na ho ng mga makinarya. Yes, next po. Next slide. So aside ho doon, meron ho tayong mga civic activities na tumutulong po tayo sa mga masalanta, gaya na ho ng sa Baguio at saka mga tree planting activities po para ho ma-protect ho natin yung ating environment. Next slide. So, noong pandemic po, nag-assist po tayo dun sa ating mga kababayan ho na tulungan tungkol doon sa mga protective PPEs na inimpart po natin sa mga hospitals po. Focus po natin dito sa Metro Manila. So yun lang po and stay safe po.
Let me welcome Ma'am Sherry Atilan.
So today the topic is about food security through agribusiness and digitalization. So I think my presentation in Agria is an example on how, you know, these two things are actually working together and on how we are progressing moving forward as a company. So I just want us to dissect on what's really the current farmer in the Philippines. Who are they? So right now, you know, for the longest years, the current Filipino farmers are poor, aging. The average age of farmers in the Philippines now is 57, or other data says it's 58, and low educational attainment. I had this discussion before with Ched. It's because there's very low educational attainment in farmers, that they say that farmers are educational is actually equivalent to 10-year-old boy in school or grade 4. If you notice the picture I posted, you know, it's a Lola farmer and a little boy with a laptop. So I think this encapsulates what we're trying to do right now, that hopefully agribusiness and digitalization will progress our agriculture moving forward with the inclusion of a lot of young people, being myself included. I always believe in this Polish proverb. It says that when the farmer is poor, so is the whole country. I think that's the reason why the Philippines is poor, because we never really focus on our farmers much. You know, aside from Secretary William Dar, who's such a mentor to me since ICRISAT, which I used to visit before when he was the Director General of ICRISAT, I really saw how the farmers have been given not only, a place on food to table kind of setting, but really giving a farmer a seat on a table in their approach in ICRISAT. So hopefully that one we can bring in the Philippines. So what are the vision, mission, and goals of Agria? Most of the agribusiness company, we're talking about agribusiness here, I don't believe in remote control agribusiness company, that a lot of people are just, okay, I'm just a hobby farmer. It's okay if you have so much money. But if we really want to build our country in agribusiness, we need to convert hobby farmers to be regular farmers and farmer entrepreneurs. But most of them, they're having a hard time creating their vision, their mission, their goals. That's why they're at a loss. You know, this end as a hobby farmer. And so in the company, our vision is to create the first one island economy model in the Philippines by 2035. For two reasons. Why one island economy? We have 7,107 islands in the Philippines, and you know, archipelago is such beautiful when you go to beaches, but it's a nightmare when we talk about supply chain and logistics in agriculture. Like this week, we have been flying via Cebu Pacific some goods from Mindanao, and every shipment, it's like giving birth to a child. So what I'm saying is, what if we empower the island in the Philippines that are agricultural to actually be food producers, especially on the commodities that can grow well in their island. So it's even definite 2035. I want it to happen in 2035. So we're now 6 years in our work for this vision, and we're working with two islands, Siargao and Marinduque. And there are 6 more islands in the pipeline signing up. We have Bohol, Cebu, Palawan, Mindoro, Negros Occidental, and also Romblon. So our mission is to alleviate poverty and hunger for farming and fishing communities. In islands we enter, we always study the import and export of the island so that we can actually design what are the programs we can work with farmers and what are the programs we can work with the fishermen in the island. And the goals, 0 waste, 0 hunger, 0 insufficiency. I love to share their goals. Hopefully it can inspire emerging agribusiness people who are watching right now to actually work on this. 0 waste, this is about taking care of our environment. So, for example, in all our rice operation, when the farmers are finished harvesting the rice, they are not allowed to burn the rice straw. They are encouraged to decompose the rice straw so that they can lessen their farm inputs in the next cropping. And second one is 0 hunger. I'm not talking about the physical hunger or the hunger of the stomach. I'm talking about the hunger of human being to belong, the hunger of the farmers to have a seat on the table, and the hunger of the consumers to have really good and quality food on their table also. And lastly is about 0 insufficiency. This is what I love to do. I love agricultural economics, and I always study the import and export and we always create a master plan and marketing study in island we enter. So every time we enter an island, we study the import and export of agricultural commodity and start our intervention from that one. So aside from that, we work closely on working on the sustainable development goals because, you know, aside from that, as I mentioned, I'm a United Nations ambassador for global nutrition, which includes, you know, agriculture. So I speak on behalf for the agriculture sector as an ambassador. We work on this sustainable development goals because we only have 10 years left to complete our SDG. And it seems with this pandemic, I don't know if we can actually complete, you know, and fulfill all the targets we set 20 years ago. So just to give you a little bit of background, I'll be showing to you our agribusinesses model and later on a little bit of digitalization, how we progress for these 2 models. First is our B2B business. We focus on the one island agri-based economy. So if you see in my presentation, that's the map of our beloved Philippines. And we're working on 2 islands now massively. So left side of the picture is Marinduque Island Province, island in Surigao del Norte. If you see in the picture, we have a lot of interventions in these 2 islands. So we do rice farming in Marinduque. And also we have 62.5 hectares of ginger and turmeric production. And also we have a model farm and a farm school. Having a farm school is always necessary in our intervention because it's a way we evangelize our farmers on how they can actually learn agribusiness, you know, sustainable agricultural practices, and more importantly, the right mindset and financial literacy to actually be later on, you know, better farmers. Pag Filipino farmer ka, parang hindi ka proud, nahihiya ka sa ginagawa mo. I always tell our farmers, tatay, nanay, wag po kayong mahiya ha, na farmer kayo. It's because yung buhay nyo ngayon na magsasaka kayo, pag-igihan natin na maging produktibo at kumita kayo ng malaki. I read this article in IMF, International Monetary Fund, why sustainable food systems are needed in post-COVID world. It means globally there's a mainstream discussion on agriculture, on food systems, on farmers, you know. And the economic reset that they said is transforming our food systems because 2020 will be a year of reckoning for the world's food systems. And I hope in the Philippines, we need to make this happen. So we need to focus on resilient food supply chains, healthy diets. Even in the Agria Rescue Kitchen, we focus on our markets, the healthy diet kind of niche market that we cater. Regenerative farming, you know, taking care of our environment, conservation and innovation. Conservation of our environment is necessary, and innovation and products. Innovation can massively be done with digitalization. So farmers, making farmers the center and core of change. Let's invest in our farmers. I'm so happy with the programs of the Department of Agriculture. How I wish Secretary William Dar, when I was young, I was a beneficiary of Maya, the mentoring and attracting youth in agribusiness. Because I remember I was 15 years old growing up in Negros Occidental. I couldn't enter a conference in agriculture because I wasn't a hashindero or a sabungero. So, and then babae pa ako, and I'm super bata. What I did every time I like to attend a conference, I would look for the older person in the room and with a lunch box, and I always approach that old person. Tito, pwede mo ba akong isama makasali sa conference? Ako na lang tagadala ng lunch box mo or medicine box. Sabihin mo, apo mo ako na kailangan taga-remind na mag-take ka na ng medicine. So that, because I really want to join the conference in agriculture. So right now, thank you Manila Times for giving me a seat as a speaker before I was begging to even enter a conference. So food systems are at the crossroads of human, animal, economic, and environmental health. So I guess in all our interventions, I love the framework that the secretary said. Actually, all of this are included. I'm always telling everyone who are into agriculture or who wants to go into agriculture, every person that is giving birth in this world, and if that person will live until 75, feeding that person in the next 75 years is the most sustainable business. You know, feeding that 3 times a day. So thank you so much. Most things except agriculture can wait. Maraming salamat po.
So the loss of showbiz is actually the huge gain of agriculture. So let me welcome Mr. Jairus Ferrer.
Okay. Our Farms Incorporated was duly registered as a corporation in 2015. And we were able to build a tight organization, a lean organization that is focused on this objective to marry digitalization and agriculture. But the question is, how do you put these two different age-old industry, and how do you marry it into this new way of doing things? So it's really adapting to the times. And let me say, no, the fundamentals of agriculture is still very, very important. However, we need to gain the wisdom of old and get the aggressiveness of the young and the innovativeness of the young and put it together. So the foundation of this is still very fundamental of what the basic agricultural principles are. It's just that we are integrating things to make it a little bit more efficient, and maybe, just maybe, it can be effective. So this is our team. We have a core team, and we also have a tech team. We also developed a legal team to be able to understand how to put things in proper perspective when it comes to business arrangements. Again, no, we are a startup. So next slide, please. The philosophy of our company is very, very simple. It's to fill the earth and make it productive. And we really want to dignify agriculture as a noble and worthy profession. And our heart is to really see young Filipinos go back to the agricultural path and choose it as a way to prosperity. And we really believe this with all our heart, that the agriculture industry, especially during this pandemic, it will be the restart of the economy. And I hope my presentation today will encourage you to look at things from a different perspective and maybe approach things in a better way, but at the same time apply the same fundamental principles. Next slide.
Hello. Finish?
All right. So
Finish ka lang.
what we have been doing for the past so a registered company in 2015, and then from 2015 to 2018, to 2017 rather, I took a personal initiative to really understand how do you assemble a team, how do you create an organization. And from 2018, I went full time, and as we were developing the organization, we were going around different parts of the country. And the network that I've built over time since I was a teenager, we started to tap these networks. And the understanding here is, how do you solve problems using user-centered design? The heart of technology actually is intuition. And it's actually behavioral science. right? So we started to understand what ails different parts of the value chain and how do we put all of these things together. So we put a scientific approach on behavioral design and translated that into a technological platform. So everything that we have and what we are using now is internally developed. Proudly, young Filipinos develop these things with us, with our company. Next slide. So during our objective and research phase, we we simplified the problems into uh, three three things, and it was already mentioned earlier and highlighted by the previous speakers. But let me re-emphasize this again. It's really mismatch from production and market, and because of this, that's the reason why we have a lot of wastage when it comes to the harvest when sabay-sabay sila nag-harvest. The second problem also is high produce wasted because of bad handling practices. So, and the third problem that we've identified is really the manual, things are very manual still. So manual purchase practices. No? So inaccurate and incomplete manual ordering and data, which is a very, very big inconvenience. Why? The problem today is we will harvest first and then saka kami maghahanap ng market. With the advent of technology, you can actually say, okay, before it's even harvested, dapat may-ari na niyan. And tama si Secretary Dar, and I really, really support all of his programs where he said, huwag ka magtanim kung walang market. Alamin mo muna ano yung kailangan ng market. So the heart of the platform is actually sold before harvest, right? So next slide. So we've summarized it into two simplified questions. This is what we have, sabi ng producer, and sabi ng market or buyers and people who need food, this is what we need, where can I get it? Everything that we are doing is to solve these two questions. Now, the next question is, how did the pandemic push UMA to operate? So allow me to present two use cases of what we have developed and how it has been applied. First is the digital wholesale system at the beginning of the lockdown during March. We were called in by a group and they said, Jai, are you already operating? Sabi ko, it's still very, very rough, but we can already begin and start using our system. So next slide. This is what happened during the start of the COVID lockdown in March. And this is our alpha version, which is already available online in www.uma.ph. That's uma.ph. Why did we develop UMA? UMA actually stands for, in various dialects across the country, it actually stands for or means farm or bukid. So we wanted to develop a brand and system that will actually uplift and dignify Philippine agricultural produce, right? So our heart is to make this an international brand, but it has to be hyper localized, meaning people and the Filipinos would support the objective and the philosophy of UMA, which is quality Philippine produce. Next slide. So during the lockdown, we activated multiple truckers also in our ecosystem, making it efficient for them. So I wasn't really able to experience being isolated because during the start of the lockdown, talagang tuloy-tuloy po tayo to ensure the objective of Secretary William Dar to make sure that food security and food access is there. Now, concept number two, proof of concept number two is actually how are we creating and enabling jobs to our system. And I'd like to show to you a campaign that we just started this month, which is the Satsuma Mandarin campaign. The reason for this is given the online systems are very cluttered now with so much information, the power of one or the power of focus is very, very powerful. So we were able to implement this to really educate the market of what this product is. Apparently, not a lot of people know about this product. However, because of precise marketing, clear messaging, and clear visuals, the market was able to adapt. And because of our system, it makes it easier for them to access these produce at a timely manner. I have to emphasize that last weekend, we were able to move 1.5 tons of fresh Satsuma mandarin for this harvest round. So ang turnover is very, very quick because of precise data. Now, since the start of March, we were able to really increase the effectivity and the distribution, and allowed us to create jobs during this month, just specifically for this campaign. And mind you, this is only coming from one farmer family. Okay, so imagine the impact if we're able to apply such systems in multiple areas. So I'd like to really encourage you, if you see this as a possible business model, reach out to us. We're more than willing to share what we have and multiply this in different parts of the country. Now, next slide. Last slide, statistics for just this month. One campaign, imagine one campaign, focused, precise data, proper supply chain systems. 35 to 40 jobs created within our ecosystem. We moved 6.5 tons in 3.5 weeks. And then areas reached within Metro Manila is around 10. Total damage, 3% because of putting everything together, therefore minimizing wastage. So that is the end of my presentation, and I hope we are realizing the digitalization of agriculture in the country. So thank you.
Maraming salamat and good day, ano? And yun nga, I hope this is not the last time we will be exchanging ideas. Maraming salamat ulit sa inyo, Ma'am Sherry,
Thank you. Thank
Sir
you.
Roberto, and the rest. Thank you very much.